Let me just say that the role that this committee plays goes beyond small businesses sometimes. And in the sense that anything that is happening in Congress regarding legislation that is considered in other committees where we can show that it impacts small businesses, we can play a role and we can seek referral of those legislation to this committee. And as an example, I will mention that both myself and my colleague, Ranking Member Chabot, we both were conferees on the Farm Bill. So with that, I just would like to begin asking each panelist to take a moment to discuss your thoughts as to what is driving the higher food prices. Some will point, and we've seen it this morning, to one particular thing, while others will suggest it is many different factors creating the perfect storm. So what do you believe is causing high food prices, and what do you see as an immediate solution? Mr. Vice.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks for all your hard work on the Farm Bill, you and Mr. Chabot. We appreciate it. I mean, you have to look at a variety of factors. And you have to address a variety of factors. Again, the price of oil, the price of gasoline, the price of diesel fuel is driving up everyone's cost. And food is very energy intensive from the farm all the way to the consumer. Second thing is definitely weather on wheat. You know, I hear about egg prices going up. I don't think anyone mentioned that. That was a disease in the laying industry that caused a lot of chickens to be put into the food system as opposed to used for laying eggs. It's not corn ethanol again. I also think you got the problem with the weak dollar. Without a doubt, we set record export levels on most commodities this year. At the same time, we had record high commodity prices. But those countries, other countries, are actually paying less for our products because they're buying with the cheap, weak U.S. dollar. So I think that's the big factors. You can control a lot of them. I mean, by the time that food gets to the chef's table, there's also a lot of other factors, labor costs, health care. We can do something about health care in this nation. We've ignored that for decades as well as the energy policy.
But do you see any type of action that can be taken to address any of those factors that we are seeing?
Absolutely. Again, open the strategic oil reserve. Dip into it. Take that pressure off of an already short market. Number two, I think you can start to address some of the factors of distribution. We're getting ready to start a wheat harvest here in 2 weeks. We're going to have a good wheat crop, which will take pressure off of wheat, which is in short supply because of weather. You know, sometimes you kind of got to be a little patient. One response to roll back the RFS would be the biggest mistake Congress could make. Because number one, 30 years ago we had this wake-up call when we had the oil embargo from OPEC. We did nothing about it. We went to sleep time after time after time. Brazil, they took action. They became energy independent. It won't happen overnight. And if we pull the plug now, we will be pulling the plug on those future generation biofuels feedstocks like cellulosic.
Mr. Tracy.
Well, you know, I'm a chef, business owner. I don't understand these you know, global economic situations. It's a very complex situation. I just know how it impacts me, and you know, I guess if there's anything that can be done, I would ask people to consider every single option, and because it's multifaceted, and look at every single one, and you know, the National Restaurant Association is saying, in addition to looking at some of the other ones, is to look at the renewable fuel production from non-food sources, and so that's just. But I just keep looking at these numbers, and they keep going up, and they're really aggressively going up, and ultimately I have to pass these prices on as a business owner, because otherwise I'm not going to stay in business. But otherwise I'm taken out of the pocket of every American.
Mr. Formica.
Thank you again, Madam Chairwoman. Again, I just think it's simple. It's supply and demand. I mean, if there is not enough acres to grow the wheat here, and we are exporting it under our programs, and the demand is high, we've got to find a way to grow more wheat. To grow more wheat, we need more acres. But I just want to make one statement about weather. Last year, we came down here March the 12th, and we met with the USDA, department, Mr. Schaefer, and he told us that we need good weather. That'll help us. But weather is not a solution. Last year, we were told not to buy our wheat at 18 cents because it went up from 16, and we're going to get a good crop. 3 devastating months later, it was at 36. So weather is not the solution. And I definitely think that relieving tariffs on importing ethanol is hurting the objective. If that's our objective, is to get more ethanol dependent in this country, to get off of foreign import, then why wouldn't we relieve the tariff on that as well as the blender's credit? I think that will solve a lot of problems for both of us.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas, do you have any comments?
Yes, thank you, Madam. You know, I think the idea of reducing our dependency on foreign fuel and coming up with alternative commodity is a commendable endeavor. I think the problem is that there was a failure to accurately assess the cost of that strategy. You know, there's a lot of things that have been listed as causes for the current situation that we're reporting to you on today. It's been described as the perfect storm with surging demand, weather, speculation, you know, all these things have contributed. But to me, one of the basic things that comes to mind is we are taking 30% of our corn crop and moving it out of the food supply. That has to have an effect on the prices of corn. You know, when you take that much out of the market, there's going to be a shortage of corn. That's going to drive the price up, supply and demand. As the price went up, farmers are changing, you know, naturally so. They're changing their, you know, their crop strategy. They're moving from growing corn or from wheat into these other products. And it's been exacerbated by the weather and the droughts that we've seen around the world. There's a lot of all these things probably go together to contribute to the problem that we face. And the question in my mind is, how can we quickly respond and bring relief to food companies, to consumers? Because I think that we're on an upswing here, and I don't think anybody here has any idea today what this means going forward. But just from our vantage point as a small business, we can't take price increases fast enough to cover our costs. And I mean, it really, I mean, it's diluting our bottom line, and I think it's going to have, you know, dramatic impacts that we're not going to like, and it's just going to continue to get worse unless we take a quick response. The easing of the mandate, I think, is the quick response that makes sense.
Thank you. Mr. Deneen.
Madam Chair, just quickly, because I know it's not in Mr. Thomas's wheelhouse, but it wasn't actually 30% of the corn crop last year. It was 22%, and again, that's of corn use, and you have to consider the feed value as well, and that's ignored in that comment. In terms of what we can do, $125 a barrel of oil. That's what this is about. This isn't about, you know, food to fuel. It's about the crude to food connection.
Let me ask you, either Mr. Deneen or Mr. Baez, and you mentioned it, but it caught my attention that Brazil, while we were sleeping at the switch, they were producing ethanol and invested a lot of money and effort and research in achieving energy independence. Do you have any insight as to how is the situation in Brazil with food prices at this point?
What it would put the prices at?
On food.
Well, they're a big food producer as we are. But I think you have to keep in mind also, we're also big food exporters. And while Mr. Thomas, with all due respect, is talking about how we shorted the food market on corn, that's just not true. We produced the largest corn crop in our nation's history last year in terms of acreage and in terms of volume. Almost 3 billion bushels more. Now, that equates to about the amount that went into ethanol, but on top of that, we exported the largest amount of corn ever in our nation's history, almost 2.5 billion bushels of corn. We can produce. An older farmer once told me the best solution for higher prices is higher prices. and we're going to see it. You're seeing transformation of corn acreage back to bean acreage this year, so soybean prices will come down. You saw more acreage go into wheat. Madam Chair, we can do all, and for those naysayers that say that the sky's falling before corn or ethanol, need to take a long, hard look at the real facts. And
Thank you. Mr. Shaba.